Welcome to Book Time with Ryan. I am Ryan, and today I'll be talking about Joanne Hedger's Aphantasia, journeying through mind blindness and embracing our unique neurodiversity with passion and purpose. This is what it looks like, huh? No, it doesn't, but we'll look at it later. Why did I do that? This is going to be about this book a bit, but it's also going to be about something I discovered last Wednesday. About a week ago. I was getting ready for work. No, I was at work. I was on the train, I was somewhere, and I read on Facebook something about how people can't see shapes. And I thought, that's a weird article. I'm going to click on that. And I did. And what I discovered was something called aphantasia. And I have to say, for the next hour and a half, my mind was absolutely blown. And I had not heard of the term before, but what it made me aware of is something that I didn't know I experienced for 42 years, my entire life. And that is mind blindness, not having a mind's eye. Basically, I am one of the 1 to 4% of the population that has aphantasia. That means that I can't voluntarily come up with imagery in my mind. So, this could be you, right? Think about something right now. Just imagine your mother or father's face. Okay? Just close your eyes if you need to. Imagine their face. Can you see their face? Can you see the shape of their head, their mouth, their nose, their eyes, what their expression might be? If you can see that, you don't have aphantasia. What do I see when I close my eyes and try to picture my mom or my dad's face? Nothing. I see gray. I can't imagine an image. It just comes out gray. Which is why I have this hat made. I can't picture that. So I was reading this post and I was like, oh my gosh, is this me? And then I thought, wait a minute. Can people do this stuff? Can people actually imagine images? Can they see stuff? And I called my wife and I said, Diane, can you imagine faces? Could you imagine my face? She said, yeah, I can see your face and I can imagine your mouth moving and you talking to me. And I said, holy shit, I can't do that. And she said, what? I said, I close my eyes. All I can see is gray, black, nothing. Which is weird because I know what my wife looks like. I can imagine, I know, I'm aware of her. I'm aware of my daughter, but I can't imagine their images. I can't see them. And we talked a while and I brought up this article that I had seen, this post that I had seen, and I Googled some more and read some more about it. We talked a little bit more. She was like, so when you read, you don't imagine what you're reading as images, as almost a movie. So when I'm reading fiction, I'm not seeing the action that I'm reading playing out as images, as almost like video, as a movie. I said, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that people could do that. And then it just expanded from there because there were things that you've heard all your life. Like, close your eyes, imagine you're on a beach. And I always thought that that was just a way to get people to relax. I didn't know people were actually imagining a beach. Or when people say, count sheep to help yourself go to sleep, which I've said to my daughter, count sheep. I just assumed that people were just, I don't even know what I just thought that people were kind of like, well, I'm counting something. I'm just counting numbers. I'm occupying my mind by counting numbers. Eventually that repetition will make me get tired and I'll go to sleep. I didn't know people were kind of imagining sheep jumping over fences or whatever they imagine. There are so many things that over the years are like, hey, picture this, or, oh, that's something I can't forget. That's something I'll never be able to get out of my mind. I won't be able to forget that image. The way people experience their relatives, the way that they experience the world, how much of their thinking involves imagery is just something that I have not been aware of. I've never asked people, like, how do you perceive this thing? And yeah, so, it's kind of like you don't, if you're not really digging into that stuff, there's ways that people are doing stuff and you just assume everyone's kind of doing it the same way you are. And then you have this moment where you find out that people are actually experiencing the world in a completely different way. And it just blew my mind. So that's what this book is discussing. It's somebody who has it. She's not a doctor, but she's experienced it. She's done a lot of reading, a lot of research on it. And she's talking about some of the ways to cope with it. Now, I'm 42. I have done fine in my life. I didn't know for 42 years that there was another way to think about things. There was another way to process information that I was getting. There was another way to enjoy books, that people were actually having these really fun experiences reading. I like reading. I love it. But I've also looked at the way that I do some of my reviews, and I looked at the way I do my book to movie reviews or book to show reviews. And I don't have an image in my mind from reading the books of what the movie or the show should look like. So a lot of my reviews are really going through kind of the facts. One of them would be Moby Dick. Well, in the book Moby Dick, it starts out, really the action kind of starts in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and then moves over to Nantucket, and then they leave from there. But in the movie that I reviewed, 1956, Gregory Peck, Moby Dick, it all starts from New Bedford. They never go to Nantucket. I think a lot of my reviews are just kind of comparing, like, this is what happens in the book. This is the thing that's different in the movie. It's not, this made me feel this way and I imagined it being like this, but then this is how it was done, because I don't imagine how a book is going to be done into a movie. And there may be a benefit to me, because I don't go into movies expecting something and then coming out either, happy with it or disappointed because it didn't live up to my expectations. I don't really have expectations. I hope it's good. I hope it's true to the book, but true to the book, not true to my perception of the book, the image that I have on my mind. That's not one of those things. One of the other benefits that they talk about is that if you have experienced trauma, like PTSD, you may be less likely you're completely unlikely to visualize that trauma, so you may have less kind of flashbacks. You'll still experience trauma, you'll still have problems, but it may be easier for you to move on. It may be easier for you to kind of move forward without having that reoccurring image of whatever the trauma was. I called my parents and I was like, oh my gosh, look at this is something I just learned. And both my parents experienced the same thing. They have aphantasia too. And it's most likely genetic. Some people, they have some kind of problem, they have some kind of injury, and that brings it on. And that's kind of really how it blew up in 2015. Somebody had a stroke and had been able to visualize imagery in their minds. They had a small stroke or something, and they couldn't do it anymore. And they hadn't spent years compensating like I have. They just went from one day having this whole internal visualization to nothing. And it was difficult, and it was like covered on BBC4 or something like that in the UK. And then people wrote to the researcher and they said, hey, I can't imagine these images either, but I've always had that. I've never had anything else. And they really started to realize that there's more out there. And it's a way of perceiving the world. It doesn't mean the person has less imagination. It doesn't mean that they're less capable or they're dumb or, I'm in Mensa. I have a high IQ. I feel like I've been able over the years. That's not a humble brag. It's just, I'm not dumb. But I think also over the years I've been able to compensate a lot with different things like dyslexia and ADD and stuff. So this is just one of those things where I had no idea, and I read about it, and then I got the book and read more, and it's a cool book. I give it 4 stars. I don't know how much it would help me because I feel like I'm already past this being an impactful thing in my life. Like it is something that says like, aha, oh, maybe not even an aha, because I was never like, wow, I just feel like I'm missing something here. I just didn't know what I was missing. But it is one of those like, holy crap, wow, I didn't realize that 99% of the population was experiencing it this way, and I wasn't, because I just never had those conversations. So this does a good job of discussing that. It also refers to some of those aha moments kind of that I had when I was discovering this aphantasia. There's stuff in here about how to cope, how to compensate. I don't think I would use that stuff. I don't know if it's scientific. I don't know. I feel like it's come out of a lot of that, the socializing of aphantasia, and it's just kind of what people have said that they do. And, it's great that there's something like this, that if it's something that you struggle with, you can discover ways to help yourself out, like making lists, checking boxes, really kind of putting these out there. I do feel like I always thought that I was a visual learner, but I do think when I think about remembering different events or activities or people, a lot of it is kind of creating the outline. The way I think about it is the concepts, and it would almost be like if you don't have aphantasia, you see a movie. And if I see the movie, I don't remember the scenes, I remember the script and all of the directions in the script. Pan here. No, there, that's it. That's all I know. But like that, I think that's how I perceive it. But it is a very weird thing to really get into and think about, because you're like, well, okay, so what is the transition from, I know what Superman looks like. How does my brain go from knowing what Superman looks like to me drawing Superman, and how do I not have an image? I think that when I'm drawing or when I'm creating something, it's more of an evolution, where I don't have an idea of exactly what I want to do, what I want it to look like. I just, as I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, yellow belt, red underwear, blue tights, red cape. It's not like, here's exactly what he looks like. I know what he looks like. I would recognize him. I'm really good with faces and recognizing people I know from years and years and years, but I don't have an image in my mind of what they look like. Kind of where I see that happen is my thumbnails are evolutions. I have an idea of kind of what I want to convey in my thumbnail, and there are different iterations of a thumbnail as I have better ideas of what to add into it or how to finely tune it. I think that's kind of how I produce things. That's how I see the world. That's how I kind of perceive the world. And it's different than you, maybe not. Maybe you have aphantasia. But it was interesting because some people know about this. I didn't. But as soon as I started reading about it, I'm like, that's me. And it wasn't something that changes my life, but it is something that I think is interesting. This is not like Ryan's going to have excuses now for having shitty reviews because of aphantasia. No, I just do shitty reviews. But aphantasia is a way I can say, I'm doing shitty reviews, but I can't picture how shitty they'll be before I do them. And it's an interesting thing. If you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm closing my eyes, I can't picture stuff. I've never read a book and thought of it as a movie. I don't sit down to relax and think of a beach. I can't do that. I've never understood why people say picture this. It's not a saying. It's really what people are doing. Then maybe you have aphantasia too. So check it out. Look it up. I'll include a link to information about aphantasia from the Aphantasia Network, which I thought was really helpful when I was looking it up. But it's a really cool book. 4 stars. It was fun to read. I do have a book coming that I've ordered that is by the neuroscientist, the neurologist that coined the term aphantasia and has done a lot of the research. So that is on its way, and eventually I'll read it when it comes. But I just wanted to let you know about aphantasia, kind of get the word out there too, and maybe somebody watching this is experiencing that for the first time, realizing that they think of things in a different way. Let me know in the comments if you're an aphant. That's what she says in here. I guess that's what people with aphantasia are called, aphants. I don't know. But, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer the way I perceive stuff too in the comments. But if you want to say anything, cool. Comments are there for that. So I will be monitoring that as I always do. And thanks for being here today. I hope you enjoyed this and learned a little bit about how different people process information in different ways. And if you do have aphantasia, this might be a good starting place. There's a lot of stuff online too to look up. So thanks for being here. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.
Into the hospital New Year's Eve. Nothing to be done about that. Rainbows, daffodils, she's not naive. Symbolism's all crap. And there's a big picture window in the room on the ward with the view over Parliament Hill. But the view offers more joy than they can afford. When there's this much pain to kill, you know what hope is. Hope is a bastard. Hope is a liar, a cheat and a tease. Hope comes near you, kick his backside, got no place in there.